Welcome back to the Jmull Show on a Friday. Twitch.tv/110sports, 110sportsmedia.com/live. Thanks so much for joining us on a Friday. Listen, November 1st, we entered the promised land. We will enter the promised land here in the state of Tennessee. On Sunday, I will be able to load currency into the DraftKings Sportsbook app and then wager said currency on NFL games. So let's go through it. Yeah? Shall we? Looking at a couple things this week. First of all, the Packers are favored by 6.5 at home against the Vikings. If you'd have told me before week 1, because once upon a time I actually picked the Vikings to win that division. If you would have told me before week 1 that when the Packers and Vikings played in week 8, that the Packers were going to be favored by basically a touchdown, I would have told you were crazy. There's no way those two teams are that different. But the Vikings have been a train wreck. A train wreck since the beginning of the season. And now they're 6.5 dogs against the Packers. Let's see, the Dolphins and Rams. The Rams minus 3.5 at Miami. That's an interesting one with Tua. Just that the Dolphins are an interesting team to watch nowadays because of that switch to Tua at quarterback. The best game of one of the best games of the weekend, Steelers Ravens. I'm actually surprised that the Steelers are +4 at the moment. That's a little bit more breathing room for the Steelers than I thought they would get. And more breathing room for the Ravens than I thought they would get. I think winning by more than 3 points is a pretty tall task. Cleveland minus 2.5 against the Raiders. The Bills get -4 at home against the Patriots. That Patriots defense is pretty good, but man, they just can't. They can't score the football. To save their lives, they can't score the football. Cam Newton hasn't been anywhere near as good as he was prior to getting injured, and so -4 for the Bills. I actually think that's a little closer than I would have expected it to be. I mean, we're talking 33-6 loss, 18-12, 26-10. They haven't scored more than 12 points since week 3 when they scored 36 against the Raiders. And then you've got, on Monday night, you've got a +12 dog for the Giants against the Bucs. That's about right. The Dallas Cowboys +9. I don't know about that. That's a lot of points. You know, they've been horrible. And I've talked on this show about them, do they win another football game? But that's also so many points. With that being said, now that we've sort of looked through all of them, the two games that I'm looking at, number 1, the Titans -6 at the Bengals. Listen, first of all, this Titans team is really good. And then second of all, Joe Burrow probably going to have another week where he won't have Joe Mixon. That offensive line is just absolutely, he's getting smoked every single game because that offensive line is just not any good. And knowing that they're going to pass a lot and also not having a good offensive line are two things that don't mix well. Joe Mixon likely won't be there again. Sure, the Titans defense is not very good, but what are the Bengals going to do to stop Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, who I'm certainly a Ryan Tannehill skeptic, but he continues to play like a top 10 quarterback in this league. And then you have Derrick Henry, who's just unfair, running away from guys while also being able to barrel over guys at 250. I expect the Titans to cover -6. And then I touched on it briefly, but then the Cowboys and the Eagles. Carson Wentz playing some good football at the moment. The Cowboys are just horrible. The Cowboys don't really have an offensive line right now, and the Eagles' defensive front is just so good. The Cowboys also, who's their starting quarterback? Exactly. It's probably going to be a long day for Dallas, especially in Philly. I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like in Philly, but I'm guessing, we're here in Tennessee, and it's 47 outside right now, which is not super cold, but it's also colder than it's been. Philadelphia this week, if we're looking at the 10-day, on Sunday, we're looking at a high of 60, but some rain. Okay. It's probably going to rain, actually. High of 60 with a 70% chance of rain. But that line is now -9. It was -7.5 at one point, which is a pretty significant difference. But I suppose if you're either going to win by a touchdown or you're going to win by 10 points or more, there's not always an in-between there. So I'm still a fan of taking the Eagles to cover because, man, that Cowboys team is just so bad. But yeah, and I'll probably throw maybe some prop bets in there, so some and bet on some other stuff throughout the day. But I'm excited. It's fun to have a reason to get a little bit more invested, even if it's for $1 or whatever it might be. But yeah, we're gonna start doing this, and we'll talk about my success on Mondays, and we'll start doing this as we get more things to bet on. And of course, we'll be able to bet on college football next weekend, and have a chance to talk about them on Fridays, and then come back and reflect on our mistakes, no doubt, on Mondays. Coming up next, we'll do some FYI, get out of here on a Friday. You're watching the Jmull Show on 110sportsmedia.com.